We are back from Texas, and it is time to talk strategy. Picks 1 to 4. If you guys have pick 101, 102, 103, or 104, you clicked on the right video, because today we are going to break down exactly what you should be doing in the early rounds, the optimal strategy, and we'll go through 2 mock drafts from each of the draft slots that you guys could be picking from and tell you how we would approach that draft selection.
Hey, and we could speak directly from experience. These strategies we are bringing you today, we exacted in the Flock League. Pick number 2, pick number 3. You'll see how that draft ended up materializing, but we are back from Texas, like Corey said, and we exacted these strategies for you guys.
For sure. So picks 101 through 104, we have the same 4 players in a different order. Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, CeeDee Lamb, and Jahmyr Gibbs. For me, it is Chase, Bijan, Gibbs, Lamb. For you, it is Chase, Lamb, Gibbs, Bijan. Same 4 players, different order. Let's start with the 101 because both of us do have Jamar Chase ranked there. And we're going to focus this strategy on building your team around Jamar Chase. In any kind of PPR format, any kind of 2 wide receiver plus start league, you are going to be taking Jamar Chase with the 101. He's going to be your hero. And what are you going to do at the turn? I think that's what a lot of people are going through. We've gotten this question a million times. I'm going to take Chase in the first round. What should I do at the 2-3 turn? Danny, how should people handle the 2-3 turn? What is the optimal start to the hero wide receiver Jamar Chase strategy?
Our favorite start when you have Jamar Chase at that 101 slot. You already won the war. You got the best player in fantasy football. How do you support him? For us, if you are able to, at that 2-12-301 turn, we want to be smashing 2 double hero running backs there. Guys like Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, JT, Josh Jacobs, Amarian Hampton. Securing 2 of those guys in addition to your Jamar Chase, we feel is the optimal strategy. And then once you secure those 2 in addition to your Jamar Chase, in rounds 4 to 7, we like drafting the wide receiver values. You could potentially deviate for a quarterback or tight end if, say, a George Kittle faulty at the 4-5, if, say, a Jalen Hurts or Jaden Daniels faulty at the 4-5. If you can get an exceptional value at the onesies, we would deviate, but we are not willing to push up quarterbacks and tight ends up the board if we do not need to. In an ideal world, maybe it's George Pickens, maybe it's Travis Hunter, whoever your flavor is at that 4-5 turn. We intend to smash wide receiver value, knowing that the quarterbacks and tight ends are probably hitting that fall off period.
Yeah, I would say of all the draft spots, 1 to 4 is probably the best to go late round quarterback, late round tight end, if you don't take one of those elite onesies at the 2-3 turn, which is kind of what we believe to be the optimal strategy. As we've talked about in numerous strategy videos, in that 3rd round area, in that 4th round area, in that 5th round area, the league winner rate of running backs is very high. In the 1st and 2nd round area, the wide receiver league winner rate is really high, and you can get quarterback and tight end value later. And I think one question people might have is, well, if I take Jamar Chase, would you still take Chase Brown? And to me, the answer is yes.
Absolutely.
It's a good enough offense. I would feel very comfortable doing it. So if that's what you were wondering, absolutely, I would still take Chase Brown at the 2-3 turn. The number 2 strategy that we have for pick 101, that's the optimal way to play it. Hero wide receiver plus double hero RB. Hit rate wise, your team will turn out the best. Backup strategy in case the running back position flies off the board, because some of you guys might be saying, okay, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, JT, Josh Jacobs, they're going to be gone. They're going to be off the board, or at least most of them are going to be off the board. Your hero wide receiver is still Jamar Chase. Running back in this scenario maybe leaves you one of those running backs. Let's say Bucky Irving falls to you. He's the last guy that falls. You can grab one running back. But if all the running backs go, mathematically, you could probably take the value at wide receiver. There's probably a wide receiver that slid to you, whether it's Ladd McConkey, AJ Brown, Drake London. In the Flock League, one of us had this scenario fall to us. I'm not going to say which one because the video is not out yet, but one of us had this scenario fall to us. So that is kind of how you would handle it. You're kind of going hero wide receiver, grabbing one of those running backs if they fall, or you're grabbing the value at wide receiver there too.
You're at the mercy at the draft board there, because like you said, if the running backs do get pushed up the board, maybe you are left with the present, because even though we like this running back range a lot, I mean, Ladd McConkey, AJ Brown, Drake London is absolutely phenomenal to be able to pair up with a Jamar Chase. But let's just say you get caught, maybe a couple of these running backs we mentioned, you're not as high on, maybe some of the wide receivers, they all go off the board. You should still be able to get one of these running backs, but we would also be willing to deviate towards a onesie, whether you like a Josh Allen, a Trey McBride, a Lamar Jackson. Those are typically the 3 guys that if you're going to go onesie, we would be willing to take at this spot.
And it's also possible if running backs get pushed up the board that Brock Bowers would fall to you as well. I think it is also possible that that could happen. So yeah, if you are on the board and you take Jamar Chase, wrap around, all the RBs go off the board, Bucky Irving's the only one left, then you could grab a Trey McBride, or then you could grab a Josh Allen, then you could grab a Lamar Jackson, because while you could take T. Higgins, I'm sure a lot of people who draft Jamar Chase don't want to do that. You could take Marvin Harrison. You could take Tyreek Hill. You could take JSN or a different wide receiver. I just think those elite onesies project better. I feel a lot cushier and cozier about taking Trey McBride, taking Josh Allen, taking Lamar Jackson, getting that elite positional advantage. In rounds 4 to 7, the strategy is not going to change much. You're still going to hammer out wide receiver and running back, especially knowing that you're one behind the 8 ball because you probably deviated for an elite onesie and took Trey McBride and took Lamar Jackson, took Josh Allen. So yeah, in that rounds 4 to 7 range, you're going to probably want to double tap wide receiver, running back at those turns, and then maybe punt off whatever onesie you didn't take into the later rounds.
And this is more of a micro player take because we'll mention maybe some of the late round targets once we get into the mock draft. But for me, and let me pose this question to you. Given some of the ADP range of the later tight ends, I'm almost willing to push up the quarterbacks here because I know how aggressively, for example, you guys are going to watch some of the videos that are coming out. I have a guy like Colson Love and I have a guy like Tyler Warren. So if I know I can get those guys at value, that'll switch my earlier strategy to potentially take a Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson over a Trey McBride.
Well, yeah, and in my number 1 draft strategy video, I said, like, don't take the first value that falls to you at tight end or quarterback because there is great values at both positions later. But again, if you're stuck on between a rock and a hard place, you don't like the wide receiver or running back projections there, it does make sense to just be like, yeah, I'm just going to take Lamar because I feel great about him. I'm just going to take Trey McBride because I feel great about him. So that's how we're handling the 101 pick. The 101 pick is pretty straightforward because you know your first selection most likely, and you feel good that you can get 2 of the next couple. The 2, 3, and 4 slot, you're going to be picking probably either Jahmyr Gibbs or Bijan Robinson. For me, it would be Bijan, then Gibbs. For you, it would be Gibbs, then Bijan. Or you could be taking CeeDee Lamb, which both of us have ranked in the top 4. And we'll
go through both.
102, my 104. And we'll talk about what happens if you go running back and what happens if you go with Lamb. So let's start with the running back position. If you go with Bijan or if you go with Gibbs, whether it's at 2, whether it's at 3, or whether it's at 4, you took a running back in the first round. What the optimal strategy probably is double hero RB. Your second hero will likely come either in the second round or in the third round with that same group of names: Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, Jonathan Taylor, Amarian Hampton, or Josh Jacobs. And by the way, in that order, that's how we would rank them: Chase Brown, Bucky, JT, Hampton, or Jacobs. Depending on which one you like more, that is the order we would draft them. And then your other player could be anything. It could be a wide receiver, say AJ, Ladd McConkey fall to you. You probably have to take them with your second pick before you take the running back, probably, if one of those guys fell to you. Or worst case scenario, you do go for a T. Higgins, you do go for a Marvin Harrison, you go for a JSN, you go for a Tyreek, whichever the like next group of wide receiver you would prefer. For me, that would be Higgins. For you, that would be Harrison. Some people might like Tyreek, JSN, Garrett Wilson, somebody like that.
It's a lot more imperative because you're not grabbing your wide receiver in the first round that you probably should be willing to take a wide receiver in round 2 or 3. Like you said, maybe you get a Ladd McConkey, AJ Brown, guy like that falling to you in the second round. Or maybe, like you said, whether you're higher on T or you're higher on Mark. Those are the 2 guys we are willing to take in the mid-third. After that, again, more so guys we would prefer at the 3-4. But maybe JSN is that guy to you. Or maybe, Tyreek Hill is that guy to you. There are wide receivers in that range that people will have their stances on. Whichever of those wide receivers represents that to you should be the guy that you make your hero.
Yeah, and again, the double hero RB strategy, because assuming you took another running back somewhere in the 2-3 range, you could also then take elite onesie and not go wide receiver, especially if you're in a league where you say, I can get elite wide receivers later. My league mates are dumbasses. They don't take wide receivers very early. Then you could go with a Trey McBride. Then you could go with a Brock Bowers, even if he falls to you. Then you could go with a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson.
And that's the caveat. You have to know your league. If you know you can get falling wide receiver value, I'm willing to deviate for the onesie. If you're in a sharper format with, wide receivers are flying off the board, round 4, maybe 8 of them go, then at that point, I'd be more willing to just take the wide receiver because I don't want to be left in a situation where my 21st ranked wide receiver is the guy that I have to rely upon as my wide receiver 1.
Yeah, like if George Pickens and Jameson Williams are your wide receiver 1 and 2, you could get by with that. And maybe some of you guys in the comments are comfortable doing that. But personally, we are not. So we would rather get a wide receiver with one of our first 3 picks if we can, if the value lines up for us. But again, I'm not going to be opposed to taking 2 running backs and a quarterback or tight end if I have to. Let's say that all fails you. What's the backup strategy if running back round 1, you go with Bijan, you go with Gibbs, you go with that hero running back strategy? And you go with a different strategy after that because you don't have Chase Brown, you don't have Bucky Irving, you don't have a lot of those running backs falling to you. They're all gone. They all go ahead of you. You're in a running back heavy league. People love running backs. Maybe it's standard, maybe it's half PPR, something like that. mathematically, you would have to have Lad McConkey, AJ Brown on the board. I would imagine one of them, if not both of them, would fall to you. And that's how you would handle your second and third pick. And again, worst case scenario, you go elite onesie, go T. Higgins, you go Marvin Harrison Jr., whatever wide receiver in the next tier that you prefer.
And the difference in structure, again, in the double hero, ideally you can leave with 2 running backs and 1 wide receiver. If you know you can push wide receiver, maybe you do 2 running backs plus that onesie. The difference here would be you don't have to have access to that second running back. They all shoot up the board. So instead of grabbing a second running back, you would grab your 1 wide receiver, and then it opens you up to potentially taking a wide receiver in the third or taking one of those onesies. So in the grand scheme, the first 3 rounds, you're either going to be leaving with 2 running backs and a wide receiver, a quarterback, or 1 running back, a wide receiver, and a onesie, or 1 running back and 2 wide receivers.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's your backup strategy if all else fails you. But again, I'd say double hero running back is probably the best way to play it. If you are going to take Bijan or Gibbs, you should probably be well aware that you're going to be weaker at wide receiver than your league mates, because the best available players around the 2-3 turn are typically the running back position. Let's talk about if you take Lamb. Because CeeDee Lamb, you could argue, because you have it ranked this way, that maybe you do want to go Lamb 102 or 103 or 104 because you feel comfortable about the running backs that are going to fall back to you. And again, the strategy here remains unchanged from if you take Jamar Chase. You're going to go hero wide receiver optimally and double hero running back. Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, Amari and Hampton. In the mid rounds, it's the same as Chase. You're not going to probably deviate for a onesie unless at the 4-5 turn, Hurts, Daniels, or Kittle fall back to you. You're probably just going to keep hammering wide receivers and running backs.
And this is one of the main reasons why I have CeeDee Lamb at 102, because for me, when I'm looking at it, it's a lot more easy to plot out what you're going to be doing around a hero wide receiver in this range than a hero running back. Again, I know the reason why you have Bijan and Gibbs higher is because you think the legendary 25, 26 point per game upside.
I just simply can't pass on them. That's 100% my opinion on it.
Fully reasonable for me, because I view all these 4 in that tier very, very even level. For me, the tiebreaker would be that I feel more comfortable building around that elite wide receiver. But again, pick your flavor. This is why you're in this range. It's very exciting picking in the top 4.
Well, yeah, and both of us got to experience these strategies in the block league, and you guys will see that when it comes out. Hero wide receiver plus elite onesie would be the backup plan, right? Like, let's say you can't get the double hero running back. Like we said, just like Jamar Chase, those running backs fly off the board. Maybe one of them falls to you. You get Bucky you'd say you're picking at 104 and you get CeeDee Lamb. You get Bucky in the second round because you're trying to catch that running back run. Yep. But then by the time the third round comes, Hampton's off the board, JT's off the board, Jacob's off the board. All those guys are probably there, or probably not there. In round 3, you're probably going to prefer, at least we would prefer, to go with a Trey McBride, to go with a Josh Allen, to go with Lamar Jackson. Plus, you have a nice balanced start. You got 1 wide receiver, you got 1 running back, and then you get yourself an elite onesie. That is probably the backup plan for the hero wide receiver. And I would actually say I feel more comfortable taking the elite onesie with Lamb as opposed with Chase, because with Chase, you got to take them at 301, as opposed to with Lamb, you might be 302, 303, 304.
That's the other thing too. You're also going to get an earlier swing around in the 4th round, and it's more likely that a falling value could come to you. Because, I mean, we'll talk about it in the specific mock draft, but maybe there's a scenario where Kenneth Walker might be able to make it to the 409, but he's probably not going to make it to the 412. Like, that is a big time variation where I would be willing to take the onesie, knowing that a Walker or a Trevion Henderson, for example, might fall back. Whereas at 412, that's a little bit more of a wish cast.
Yeah, and that may be a hint to what happened in the flock league to one of us. So we'll continue on how to handle the onesies in general, because I think this is a very important thing for all these pick numbers. Is what do you do with quarterback and tight end? Assuming you're just in a 1 quarterback, 1 tight end league, there's no premiums or super flex or anything like that. The 2-3 turn, like we said, Trey McBride, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, maybe Brock Bowers falls to you. Bowers is probably gone, and it's too early for Jalen Hurts, Jane Daniels. That's going to be a decision that you have to make if you have a top 4 pick. Are you going to take McBride, Allen, or Jackson with probably your 3rd pick, but one of your first 3 picks? If you miss on those guys, the 4-5 turn is probably guys that we're passing on. We are probably not taking Joe Burrow, Sam Laporta, any other elite onesies. We are passing on them unless Hurts, Daniels, or Kittle's fall.
Yeah, and likewise with the 6-7, again, there's more stomachable prices for those guys. Like, I think Mahomes is fine in this range, but maybe you don't want to take the first value quarterback like Corey was saying. Hawkinson, fine in this range, but spoiler alert, like I said, the other 2 tight ends, Tyler Warren and Colson Loveland, if I know I can get those guys later in my draft, I don't feel comfortable reaching on Hawkinson per se.
Yeah, and I will say that if you did, let's say you took Chase with your first pick, or you took Higgins with one of your other picks, if it's the 6-7 turn and Burrow's there, I'm totally fine taking him at that point. 100%. And also, I think Laporta is fine at that price tag as well, but I wouldn't probably go down to Hawkinson or the next group of tight ends, Kelsey and those type of guys. Yeah. And I probably wouldn't go down to the next group of quarterbacks, Mahomes, Mayfield, Murray, those type of guys either. So if Burrow falls to you at the 6-7 turn, I'm fine with it, especially if Chase or Higgins. And if Sam Laporta falls to you at 6-7, I'm also fine with it there. But generally, we're leaning late round quarterback or tight end if we miss out on those elite onesies. And our biggest targets, you guys have heard us talk about them a million times. Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, specifically where you would want to take those guys is probably around the 8-9 turn, because at the 10-11 turn, they might be gone. But in home leagues, they might fall to you there. Mark Andrews, Tucker Kraft, Dalton Kincaid, David Njoku, Jake Ferguson, or Dallas Goedert. Those are our late round tight end targets that we like. Late round quarterback targets, I mean, there's a million of them. Bo Nix, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Trevor Lawrence, JJ McCarthy, Justin Herbert, and more. And I'd say a good compass for late round quarterback targets is stacking with your wide receivers. If you took CeeDee Lamb with the 4th pick, Dak Prescott in the 8-9 turn, sounds great. If you took Ladd McConkey with your 2-3 turn pick, then Justin Herbert in the 10th, 11th round makes sense. If you took Marvin Harrison with your 303, Kyler Murray in the 8-9 turn makes sense. So just use that as a compass for what quarterbacks you go after. And again, this is assuming you did not take an earlier quarterback, you punted the position overall. Danny, before we get into it, because we're going to do two mock drafts. We're going to do one where I'm picking 1, you're picking 4, and we're going to do one where we're both picking 2 and 3. And we're going to do it in a way that we use both of these strategies. We both go elite wide receiver early. We both go elite running back early, and see how our teams pan out. There are going to be people in the comments who ask us, how does this change based on my specific league format? So a standard league, for example, how does this change? Well, the easy answer is that running back values are overinflated. The 3 running backs probably should be the first 3 picks off the board. So that would be Bijan, Gibbs, and Saquon Barkley. They should go ahead of Chase and Lamb because in standard running back value is really, really high. And maybe even a 4th running back could go off the board over those guys. CMC, Derrick Henry, or some even Genty potentially, because he's going to get a lot of carries. Those guys could go over Chase as well. But I personally would take Chase and Lamb after those guys.
100%. And when we were looking at, for example, 2024 standard scoring, it's like Jamar Chase was a positional advantage at wide receiver. But when you're taking overall scoring, a guy like Derrick Henry actually averaged 2.5 more fantasy points per game. So you'll know your league. You'll understand maybe the potential wide receiver value you can get. But that is the biggest discrepancy. Again, we don't personally play in a non-PPR, a standard format, however you guys may call it. But at the same time, it's acknowledging where exactly is the point where I want to value the positional advantage versus the raw point scoring equity that the running backs are giving me.
Yeah, and then conversely, if you guys play in wide receiver heavy formats like start 3 wide receiver, 2 flex, full PPR type of stuff, CeeDee Lamb is probably 102 in a format like that, for sure. I mean, you already have him there, but I would probably even say that in that type of format, you want to be heavy
maybe
on
even
wide
Jefferson.
Receivers. Yeah, and you could get me there and say, Jefferson over Gibbs or Jefferson over Bijan. Bijan, I would have a hard time not taking. There's no way I would take Justin Jefferson over him, but you could convince me on Jefferson over Gibbs in a format of that nature. 8 or 10 man leagues. I've had a lot of people ask me this on the number 1 draft strategy video. How does your strategy change at an 8 and 10 man league? Well, the elite onesie strategies become all the more important because the elite onesie, specifically the top 4 quarterbacks and top 3 tight ends, are positional advantages. And in an 8 and 10 man league, let's say you take Jamar Chase with the 101. Well, you might get a better wide receiver falling back to you, and then suddenly double hero RB doesn't really make as much sense. Like if Drake London falls back to you after you take Jamar Chase in an 8-man league, then you don't have to go with Bucky and Chase Brown. You don't have to go with Jonathan Taylor and Amari and Hampton. You're going to get better options falling back to you at the 4-5 turn at running back, so you don't feel like you need to take running backs as early. And who knows, maybe a running back like Derrick Henry or Devon Achane falls to you in an 8-man draft.
And conversely, I mean, we mentioned 8 or 10 man draft. Maybe you're on the complete other side of the spectrum. You're in a 14-man league, 16-man league. You have to take less risk in your first few picks. You may miss the boat on the running back at the 2-3 turn, but optimally here, just hitting on good players is going to be your strategy. And I would say late quarterback, late tight end become even more imperative because your flex players become all that more important.
Yeah, and you don't like those positional advantages are so much more valuable in an 8 and 10 man league at tight end and at quarterback than they are in a 14 and 16 man league. Even though the position is watered down, generally speaking, you are not going to get nearly as big of an advantage because in an 8 and 10 man league, you can't replicate Brock Bowers at tight end. You can't replicate Josh Allen at quarterback, but you can in a 14 man league get by if you are great at wide receiver and running back, which is the optimal way that we would play those positions. So we're 20 minutes through the strategy here. Hopefully you guys got some value from this portion. We are going to go through a mock draft. Like I said, starting on a sleeper mock draft to show you guys a more casual format. And then we'll do our second mock draft over on flockfantasy.com to show you guys a little bit more of a sharper room worse value in the mid rounds, so on and so forth. So let's pivot into the sleeper mock draft. All right, so we're into the mock draft. Again, we are doing this a sleeper mock draft, and the roster settings, as you guys can see them here, it's just a base, quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 2 flex, tight end, full PPR, nothing crazy, just a regular format that most of you guys are probably playing in your home leagues. And again, we are going to enact the early round wide receiver, hero wide receiver strategy. You're going to be doing it with Lamb. I'm going to be doing it with Chase. I'm picking from 1. You're picking from 4. And then in the second mock, we'll move over to Flock Fantasy and do it with the running backs.
100%. Like we said, CeeDee Lamb, welcome him here at 4. Again, whether that's, for example, in some of your leagues, maybe Saquon Barkley goes before a Jahmyr Gibbs or a Bijan Robinson. For me, I'd be taking CeeDee Lamb over any of the running backs that would fall there. Given my rankings again, I have him at the second player. We do see Lamar Jackson go off the board, but for the most part, let me just take a look. One of the wide receivers did fall, but let me see the running back position. Chase Brown is going to be my highest rated player left. Like I said, because I started with CeeDee Lamb, ideally I can end up with a double anchor at running back here. So I'll take Chase Brown, see what falls to me, and maybe pivot if I need to.
Yeah, I mean, you could have gone Bowers there too, because Bowers did end up actually sliding to you because Irving and, Taylor already went off the board. But definitely that's something that you got to be wary of if you guys are drafting from this slot, is that Bowers might fall to you, or some of these elite quarterback and elite tight end values are going to stick out as maybe the best player on the board. It's all about what you believe you can get later. If you believe you can get great tight end options later, then maybe you just bypass Bowers like you did there.
And for ease sake, if you guys will say, oh my God, no way Brock Bowers falls to 211, just pretend he went where Lamar Jackson went. Like realistically, he probably should have went, but I want to give you guys the most exact mock what the 1-4 should look like, because in most scenarios, Brock Bowers just isn't making it this far.
Yeah, and I'm in the scenario where, the optimal strategy is not probably what's going to work for me. Like I can't get Bucky Irving and Jonathan Taylor here. They're not on the board. So I'm probably, because Ladd McConkey fell, I'm going to take Ladd McConkey because mathematically, usually if you don't have those running backs on the board, it means one of those wide receivers or Brock Bowers probably fell to you. So that's what happened to me. But I do still want one anchor running back. So it would be between Kyron Williams, James Cook, Breece Hall, Alvin Kamara, Amarian Hampton, Kenneth Walker, those type of guys. My next rated running back is Amarian Hampton and Kenneth Walker. Those are my 2 highest rated running backs on the board. I could go in the direction of not taking a running back at all and go with an elite onesie. I actually think I might do that just because I think it's a smidge of a reach on Amarian Hampton. Plus, I already would have McConkey in the situation, so I'm quite invested in the Chargers offense. I'm going to take Trey McBride and see how it goes from there. Yep. He is ranked as my tight end 1, and we'll see what happens beyond that. I think I can land the plane at running back, so I actually kind of almost go to plan C as opposed to plan B, where I can't get a running back at all that I feel comfortable with.
And inversely, with the 2 main quarterbacks off the board, with the 2 main tight ends off the board, I'm not going to be going at onesie at this pick. Like you said, with Amarian Hampton, I think he's an appropriate pick at this 3-4 spot. I have him ranked above this range. Sleeper ADP is a little bit lowered. Like, again, if you know you can get some falling running back values at the 4-9, maybe it changes specifically for your league. But for me, I'm totally comfortable taking Amarian Hampton here, getting my second anchor running back and building my team out, like we said in the strategy portion. All right, so I'm back on the clock here. We do see a bunch of wide receivers go. Hurts, Daniels, Burrow all go at quarterback, and Kittle goes at the tight end position. So none of the falling onesies were able to make it back to me. Kenneth Walker also goes right before my pick, so I feel a little bit more comfortable with the fact that I took Amarian Hampton earlier, because we do see some of the running back targets maybe not making it back to me. So I will look back towards the wide receiver position. A couple of very interesting options. My highest ranked player would be a guy like Travis Hunter. However, knowing the ADP, I might try to see if he can slip to me. Because my highest ranked wide receiver is still on the board, and that would be Devontae Adams. So I'll take Adams at this 4-9 spot and kind of see what makes it back.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I'm going to grab Chuba Hubbard here because he is my highest rated running back, and he is almost kind of somewhat of a tier break because I have him kind of in the range with like Kamara and Cook and just a little bit behind those guys. So I could go Chuba Hubbard. I also, my next rated running back would be James Conner or Isaiah Pacheco or Trevion Henderson. So I could go with another running back there, which is probably what I'm going to end up doing, but I am going to just look and see what, Devontae Smith is my highest rated player overall, and Xavier Worthy shortly behind him. But I do feel like I'm probably going to get locked out at running back if I don't take a running back here. I'm going to be looking at pretty awful options on the way back at the 6-7 turn. And I think I'll feel better about the wide receivers at that point in time. So I'm going to grab Trevion Henderson and go with the 2 running backs start there at the 4-5. And hopefully some of the 6-7 guys fall back to me.
For sure. I'm back on the clock here. Travion Henderson, great pick. If he had fallen, I actually would have seriously considered taking a third running back because he's just clearly the best player available at that point. However, with that being said, I would have considered Travis Hunter at my last pick. He is still my highest ranked wide receiver here. Again, if you want to play the ADP game, he's technically 67 on Sleeper. I might get him at the 6'9". Maybe you'll know your league a little bit more. For me, I don't trust the Sleeper AI to let him get back to me. So I'm just going to go ahead and get aggressive on him here. All right, so I'm back on the clock here. My highest ranked player left would be Rome Odunze, so I will go that direction, and we'll see where it takes us.
Yeah, and like we've talked about a million times, like what kind of structures we like and how to play your league through those structures and that kind of thing. I obviously have two running backs now, two wide receivers, an elite onesie at tight end. I do feel behind the 8 ball in my flex spots, which I don't really love. I don't think I got the greatest value on Chuba Hubbard, Travion Henderson. I think I would have preferred to get a running back at the 2-3 turn to feel better at that position. But nonetheless, we got to land the plane here. Looking at the running back position, I don't really love any of these options, to be honest with you. I guess Caleb Johnson is somewhat interesting if I want to take a rookie upside swing. I don't think I have the luxury of doing that, knowing that I already took Travion Henderson. So I feel like I need to stash some elite, not elite production, but some good production. So I'll take Calvin Ridley. I feel like he's going to get some targets and some volume there. And then between Judy, Olave, Addison, and some of these other guys, I actually prefer all the way down the board in sleeper ADP, Emeka Egbuka to all of them. So maybe people would think that's a reach, but at the 7-1, I mean, he ain't coming back to me. Yeah. So I'll take him at the 7-1. I'm very comfortable taking him there. I have him ranked in the 6th round, no problem. So I'll take Emeka Egbuka, even though the sleeper ADP is way lower on him.
Yeah, Emeka Egbuka, you had to get your Tampa Bay Buccaneer, just like I had to get my Dallas Cowboy there with CeeDee Lamb. So we're staying on brand. I'm back on the clock. You mentioned you didn't want to go with Tony Pollard. I think 7-4 is a reasonable range. I do have my two main running backs. I secure a guy like Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard, to me, feels like a type of guy where he's going to start off with a median opportunity, and he could be a potential trade candidate where if you draft him early and you notice a guy in your league needs running back, he seems like the type of guy that you can tier up with. So for me, I grabbed Tony Pollard. He's going to be my RB3 here, and I do think he should at least start the season strong.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think at the 7-4, you feel pretty comfortable with him there, and he's going to be the first guy off the bench for you, assuming you can start Hampton right away. Worst case scenario, he's starting for you early in the season.
I'm back on the clock, and like I had mentioned, even if a McBride had fallen to me at the 3-4, the main reason why I'm kind of skipping on him in this range is because of how aggressively I have these other tight ends. Because I have a Chicago Bear, maybe you guys wouldn't feel comfortable doubling up. So for E's sake, I'll actually take Tyler Warren here.
Yeah, no, that's definitely fair. Grabbing Tyler Warren at the 8-9, again, that's maybe not where you'd quite have to take him on sleeper ADP, but we're both like, I'm not risking it with Egbuka. You're not risking it with Warren. I'm just going to take the guy that I have ranked there. So I talked about it earlier in the draft, but use your wide receivers and tight ends as a compass, man. If you go late round quarterback, it makes a lot of sense to just stack up a guy that you took early. And for me, Chase's quarterback is off the board. Egbuka's quarterback is off the board, but McBride and Ladd McConkey's quarterbacks are not off the board. And Kyler Murray, to me, is the guy that I prefer of the two. So I'll grab Kyler Murray here, stack him up with Trey McBride. And I feel pretty good that I actually could have an elite onesie and tight end and a good, really great option at quarterback with Kyler Murray. Yeah. So I'll grab him, and then I'll grab one more wide receiver off the bench to feel better about that position. Could be Downs, could be Reed, could be Pearsall. Pearsall's the healthy one right now, so I'll lean with him.
Yeah, perfectly reasonable. Pearsall would have been consideration for my pick because even though I had just recently mentioned, okay, I have a Dunze, maybe even because I have Loveland one spot higher than Warren, because I have a Dunze, I would kind of favor Warren in that spot. However, I think Josh Downs is the clear answer here at wide receiver. So, yeah, you might be watching, oh, you took a second Indianapolis Colt. Maybe you guys lean a different direction. For me, Josh Downs was the clear BPA in this spot.
All right, and we did just simulate to the end of the draft because we didn't feel like showing you guys the late round ones. Danny, you go with CeeDee Lamb, obviously, and you grab Dak Prescott later, and then, yeah, pretty much just backfilling with running backs and wide receivers, and then we showcase the early round strategy for you guys there from pick 4 with that hero wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, hero wide receiver Jamar Chase. Again, I backfill with running backs and wide receivers on the end of my bench. I have an elite onesie at each quarterback and tight end, so I don't feel the need to draft a second. But let's pivot into the next draft where we're going to go with the elite running back in the first round from the 2-hole and from the 3-hole, and we'll show you guys how things kind of differ a little bit on flockfantasy.com. Quick plug, we do have a draft simulation tool over on Flock Fantasy, and I would say that this is much better than doing drafts on Sleeper because you're going to have a lot more realistic ADP, particularly in the mid to late rounds and sharper formats. You're not going to get, I could have punted Emeka Egbuka to the 8-9 turn in that last draft, but I didn't because I figured it wouldn't be realistic if I did. But if you go to our draft simulation tool, you can basically customize your entire league. And of course, this is a benefit of our brand new season pass, which you can sign up for $35. You get our draft guide and the draft guides of all the other favorite creators that you guys have in the Flock League. And you can use our draft simulator tool, trade calculator, my team's feature, get all of our rankings, rest of season, in-season rankings that you guys are going to need to start your lineups and set your start-sit decisions. So definitely check that out if you guys are interested. But let's get into the mock. All right, so we're into the Flock Fantasy Draft Simulator. Again, quick shout out. We have expert rankings as the base, but if you are a site subscriber, you can sort by our specific rankings. We are going to show you what it looks like when you take an early running back. So I'm going to be taking Bijan here. Danny, you're going to be taking Gibbs here. And we'll show you those draft strategies we talked about in the strategy portion.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I do have Lamb higher, but if you were taking Gibbs at this spot, we're going to show you how the build looks. All right, so I'm back on the clock here, taking Gibbs in the first round. If I sort by my own rankings, I see that my next highest ranked player would be Brock Bowers or Ladd McConkey. I think this is the extreme scenario where it'd be cool just taking the onesie first.
Yeah, that's totally fine. And as we talked about in the strategy portion, when you go with Bijan Robinson, you might think, oh man, I'm not going to get another wide receiver falling back to me. I might get locked out. But in this situation, thankfully, I do get Ladd McConkey falling back to me. So I grab Ladd McConkey and I'm able to potentially enact the double hero running back like we talked about. But in this situation, Chase Brown's gone, Jacobs is gone, Taylor's gone, Irving's gone. All these guys are off the board. So I'm kind of left, okay, maybe I do the balanced approach like we talked about where I go with a Lamar Jackson here, or maybe I go with a T. Higgins here, or I go with a Josh Allen here. I'm going to do the non-elite onesie. I'll go with T. Higgins and I'll go with the 2 wide receiver start with the running back spot because you ended up deviating for the onesie there.
And likewise, because I do have a running back and a tight end with my first 2 spots, what did I say at the top? If I am in a sharper draft, I don't want to be left behind the 8-ball at wide receiver. So I'd be willing to push up Marvin Harrison Jr. to this spot because if I didn't go with him here, I'd be staring down the barrel of probably the wide receiver 21, 22 as my wide receiver 1.
Yeah, exactly. You definitely don't want to be in that situation. So we both go with kind of balanced approaches. I grab 2 wide receivers, 1 running back. You grab a onesie and then 1 of each there. What are you thinking of this next pick?
Yeah, and I'm perfectly comfortable taking Travis Hunter as my wide receiver too. So here, 410, highest rated player by the experts as well. So they are in agreement that he is the best pick on the board. But the next closest for both of us would be one Devontae Smith, which I'm sure you're going here.
Yeah, and when this is exactly why we did the second mock draft on Flock is because you were able to push Travis Hunter to the 5 spot, or to the 5th round in the last mock draft, and you see some of these great values going off the board. Like Tet McMillan definitely did not go off the board at the 408 in the mock draft that we did last time. So we definitely feel really good about this mock draft simulator as being a great tool for you. I'm going to grab Devontae Smith just because he's my highest rated player. Ideally, I would love to get a running back here, but I don't really value one at this point. Like, I don't think that Isaiah Pacheco, Chuba, I mean, I could go with Isaiah Pacheco, Chuba Hubbard here, but I just love the
feels early.
Terry McLaurin and Zay Flowers and these guys are on the board for me. So wide receiver 4, Terry McLaurin, I feel very good about that. And again, this is a 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 2 flex. So all 4 of those players are starters for me. It's not like I just took a bench player over my RB2. I can get McConkey, Higgins, Smith, and McLaurin in my lineup every single week.
And likewise, that's why I'll be leaning with Rome Odunze here, my next highest ranked wide receiver 24 in my rankings. If I'm going to have my hero at running back, a stud onesie at Bowers, I'll make up the numbers with these 3 wide receivers.
Yeah, and as we made reference to as well, there's no, like, unless Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, George Kittle fall back to you at that 4 or 5 turn and you don't have a onesie already, maybe you'd go in that direction. But otherwise, you're pretty much just going to punt off quarterback and tight end if you don't get one early.
Yep, for sure. But I'm back on the clock here. My next rated player at the flex spots would be actually Stephon Diggs, I believe. And because we have the opportunity for one more flex player in our lineups, I will go with Stephon Diggs. I do view a little bit of a drop off at wide receiver after him.
Yep, for sure. And I actually made reference to this in the earlier portion of the video, but at the 6-7 turn, I'm actually comfortable clicking the button on Sam Laporta here. But I am going to play the ADP game because the guy picking after me already has a tight end. So I'm going to pick him with my next pick. And I do probably got to grab a running back here. And it's going to be between Brian Robinson, Tony Pollard. I mean, we got, Brian Robinson trade speculation right now. So I'm probably not going to go in that direction. Could go David Montgomery as well. You know what? Actually, I'll take David Montgomery. Roll David Montgomery, get a touchdown or bust RB2 to go along with Bijan. I'm just not high on I mean, I am high on B-Rob. I just don't know where he's going to end up. And I think it's too early to take that risk. And then Tony Pollard, I'm just not super into there. So I am going to take Sam Laporta with my next pick here. Could go quarterback potentially as well, but I think I prefer Laporta over like a Bo Nix or one of those other guys.
Thankfully, you didn't go with both running backs because otherwise I would be left staring down the barrel of Gibbs and nothing there. So You didn't go with Tony Pollard, so I will.
Yeah, there you go. So you got I gave Danny a gift without knowing it.
Thank you.
But yeah, you could see just looking at the board on Flock Fantasy, it's just so much sharper than Sleeper. So if you guys are practicing for your home league drafts, you got a 3-step process. Draft underdog teams because they're real money drafts, and that's the best way to go about things. But also draft on Flock Fantasy and draft on your home platform, whether it's Sleeper, ESPN, to get an idea of their ADP too.
For sure. I'm back on the clock here. Next highest rated player at the running back position would be Tyrone Tracy, and that is the direction I'm going to go with. Making up some more numbers at running back after solidifying that mid rounds with wide receiver and tight end.
Yeah, for sure. Let's use our compass here. Do we want to pull Justin Herbert up the board? Burrow's already gone. Hurts already gone. Daniel's already gone. I don't think I need to pull Herbert up the board. And Kyler, Purdy, these guys, I feel like I can wait on the quarterback position. So I'm also going to grab myself another running back. I feel good that David Montgomery is a very easy, very safe option. So I'm actually comfortable taking the risk that Joe Mixon comes back healthy at some point and can be a better option than what I have with David Montgomery. And I actually was hoping Travis Etienne would fall back to me, and he did. So I'll just double up on the running back position again. And hopefully I can make up that RB2 in numbers. Early on the season, Dave Montgomery's more than fine, but later on the season, I want a little bit more upside.
Yep. And you mentioned stacking here. I have Marvin Harrison as my first wide receiver, 303. What am I going to do? I'm going to take his quarterback here with Kyler Murray and see what happens.
So we're to the end of the draft. You guys can see how our teams turned out. I end up grabbing Caleb Williams as my quarterback position. Then we both kind of just backfill with wide receivers and running backs. And that's basically it. And other nice thing about Flock Fantasy is that you actually get a little post-draft review. So you can see what my team looks like. You can see whose rankings, if you're a site expert, prefers it, and all that good stuff.
It's very clear by the expert rankings that I'm on an island with some of my convictions.
Yes, you are, in fact, on an island. And if we actually sort by your ranking specifically, then the Danny bots and the FSC bots and the Danny drafting the team definitely look a lot better there. So if you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new around here. Don't be one of those 40% who are watching these videos who are not subscribed to the channel. And of course, make sure to check out flockfantasy.com. Season pass right now, like I said, 4 draft guides for one price, $35, and you're covered until the end of the fantasy football season for start sit rankings, rest of season rankings, trade calculator for in-season stuff, my team's feature to see how you stack up at all your positions. The best deal out there, check it out, is linked down below in the pinned comment. And again, the 3-step process of dominating your home leagues is start doing underdog drafts, get some real money practice, get some real money drafts in, and you can get all of that practice for some of these smaller contests right now. I believe what is it called? The 6-pack, the mini 6-pack or something going live today. You can actually do 6-man drafts for those of you guys that are in smaller league formats. That would be great practice for you. And those are just $5 to enter. Puppy is live. Pomeranian is live. $5 and $3 contest. Of course, Best Ball Mania also live right now. And of course, when you sign up, use the promo code FSE for a 50% deposit match up to $1,000. All of those will be linked down below in the description of this video. But with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.